فقلت وعليك السلام يا ولدي ويا قرة عيني وثمرة فؤادي. فقال لي يا أماه إني أشم عندك رائحة طيبة كأنها رائحة جدي رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله. فقلت نعم إن جدك وأخاك تحت الكساء. فدنى الحسين نحو الكساء وقال السلام عليك يا جداه، السلام عليك يا من اختاره الله، أتأذن لي أن أكون معكم تحت الكساء؟ فقال وعليك السلام يا ولدي ويا شافع أمتي قد أذنت لك. فدخل معهما تحت الكساء. فأقبل عندك ذلك أبو الحسن علي بن أبي طالب وقال السلام عليك يا بنت رسول الله. فقلت عليك السلام يا أبا الحسن ويا أمير المؤمنين. فقال يا فاطمة إني أشم عندك رائحة طيبة كأنها رائحة أخي وابن عمي رسول الله. فقلت نعم هو مع ولديك تحت الكساء. فأقبل علي نحو الكساء وقال السلام عليك يا رسول الله، أتأذن لي أن أكون معكم تحت الكساء؟ قال له عليك السلام يا أخي ويا وصي خليفتي وصاحب لوائي، قد أذنت لك. فدخل علي تحت الكساء. ثم أتيت تحت الكساء وقلت السلام عليك يا أبتاه يا رسول الله، أتأذن لي أكون معكم تحت الكساء؟ قال وعليك السلام يا بنتي ويا بضعتي قد أذنت لك. فدخلت تحت الكساء. فلما اكتملنا جميعا تحت الكساء أخذ بي رسول الله بطرف الكساء أو ما بيده اليمنى إلى السماء وقال اللهم إن هؤلاء أهل بيتي وخاصتي وحامتي، لحمهم لحمي ودمهم دمي، يؤلمني ما يؤلمهم ويحزنني ما يحزنهم. أنا أحب لمن حاربكم وسلم لمن سالمهم، عدو لمن أعداهم ومحب لمن أحبهم، إنهم مني وأنا منهم. فاجعل صلواتك وبركاتك ورحمتك وغفرانك ورضوانك علي وعليهم، وأذهب عنهم الرجس وتحرهم تطهيرا. فقال الله عز وجل يا ملائكتي ويا سكان السماوات إني ما خلقت سماء مبنية ولا أرضا مدهية ولا قمرا منيرا ولا شمسا مضيئة ولا فلكا يدور ولا بحرا يجري ولا فلكا يسري إلا في محبة هؤلاء الخمسة الذين هم تحت الكساء. فقال الأمين جبرائيل يا رب ومن تحت الكساء؟ فقال عز وجل هم أهل بيت النبوة ومعدن الرسالة، هم فاطمة وأبوها وبعلها وبنوها. ما صل على. قال جبرائيل يا رب أتأذن لي أن أهبط إلى الأرض لأكون معهم سادسا؟ فقال الله نعم قد أذنت لك. فهبط الأمين جبرائيل وقال السلام عليك يا رسول الله. العلي الأعلى يقرئك السلام ويخصك بالتحية والإكرام ويقول لك وعزتي وجلالي إني ما خلقت سماء مبنية ولا أرضا مدهية ولا قمرا منيرا ولا شمسا مضيئة ولا فلكا يدور ولا بحر يجري ولا فلك يسري إلا لأجلكم ومحبتكم، وقد أذن لي أن أدخل معكم، فهل تأذن لي يا رسول الله؟ فقال رسول الله وعليك السلام يا أمين وحي الله إنه نعم قد أذنت لك. ودخل جبرائيل معنا تحت الكساء. فقال لي أبي إن الله قد أوحى إليكم يقول إنما يريد الله ليذهب عنكم الرجس أهل البيت ويطهركم تطهيرا. فقال علي لأبي يا رسول الله أخبرني ما لجلوسنا هذا تحت الكساء من الفضل عند الله. فقال النبي والذي بعثني بالحق نبيا واصطفاني بالرسالة نجيا، ما ذكر خبرنا هذا في محفل من محافل أهل الأرض وفيه جمع من شيعتنا ومحبينا إلا ونزلت عليهم الرحمة وحفت بهم الملائكة واستغفرت لهم إلى أن يتفرقوا. فقال علي إذا والله فزنا وفاز شيعتنا ورب الكعبة. فقال النبي ثانيا يا علي والذي بعثني بالحق نبيا واصطفاني بالرسالة نجيا، ما ذكر خبرنا هذا في محفل من محافل أهل الأرض وفيه جمع من شيعتنا ومحبينا وفيهم محموهم إلا وفرج الله حمه ولا مغموم إلا وكشف الله غمه ولا طالب حاجة إلا وقضى الله حاجته. فقال علي إذا والله فزنا وسعدنا وكذلك شيعتنا فازوا وسعدوا في الدنيا والآخرة ورب الكعبة. سورة الفاتحة.
محمد وآل Muhammad salawat. Inshallah, on this auspicious eve of the birth anniversary of Sayyidah Fatima, we wish all our mothers and mothers to be a happy Mother's Day. And inshallah, in this munajat, you will all give me support, inshallah. Muhammad wa ali Muhammad salawat. Ya Muhammad Ali Ya Fatema Zahra مدد کرنے آؤ دعا ہی ہے دل کی فاطمہ زہرا یا محمد علی یا فاطمہ زہرا مدد کرنے آؤ دعا ہی ہے دل کی فاطمہ زہرا مشکل میں دل نے پکارا ہے تم کو صدا دی ہے دل نے گھبرا کے تم کو ہم بے کس ہیں بیوی کہاں جائیں گے ہم بے کس ہیں بیوی کہاں جائیں گے ہم مشکل ہے اب یا محمد علی یا فاطمہ زہرا مدد کرنے آؤ دعائی ہے دل کی فاطمہ زہرا یہ روح کا نکلنا بہت ہی ہے مشکل گناہوں کا بوجھ سر پہ لے جانا مشکل ہے امید تم سے عذابوں سے ہم کو ہے امید تم سے عذابوں سے ہم کو لحد میں تم آ کے بچانا فاطمہ زہرا مدد کرنے آؤ یا محمد علی یا فاطمہ زہرا مدد کرنے آؤ دعا ہی ہے دل کی فاطمہ زہرا گزرتی چلی ہے یہ زندگی اپنی نہ لکھے فرشتوں نے کچھ نیکی اپنی گناہوں کا سر پہ جو بوجھ لیے ہم گناہوں کا بوجھ سر پہ بوجھ لیے ہم گناہوں کو ہمارے مٹانا، فاطمہ زہرا مدد کرنے آؤ، یا محمد علی یا فاطمہ زہرا مدد کرنے آؤ، دعائیں ہے دل کی فاطمہ زہرا، جو حاضر یہاں پر ہیں اس وقت بی بی، جو آئے ہیں سب اس مجلس میں بی بی، انہیں آفتوں سے، انہیں ہر بلا سے، انہیں آفتوں سے، انہیں ہر بلا سے، ہمیشہ تم آ کے بچانا، فاطمہ زہرا مدد کرنے آؤ، یا محمد علی یا فاطمہ زہرا مدد کرنے آؤ، دعائیں ہے دل کی فاطمہ زہرا، محمد وعلی محمد صلی اللہ علیہ وسلم.
Respected elders, brothers and sisters, Assalamu alaikum. Just want to quickly introduce you tonight to our guest speaker. I want to welcome Sheikh Dr. Mehdi Hazari, who is from Durham, North Carolina. He is the resident scholar for the Ibadat community in Durham. In addition to that, just some background on Sheikh Mehdi. He was born in Toronto, and I'm many asked where he's from. Sheikh Mehdi was born in Toronto, Ontario, and I'm sure as you converse with him, he'll share his background in more detail. But some notable things about Sheikh Mehdi: he received in 2012 an award from the Obama administration as one of the up-and-coming scientists. There was an award that was given to him by the Obama administration as well. Sheikh Mehdi serves on the Shia North American Muslim Council, as well as a board member of the Imam organization. So just want to let everybody here, let's give a warm welcome to Sheikh Mehdi with a loud salawat.
السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. Can we please have a Surah Al-Fatiha? بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين. وقل ربي أعوذ بك من همزات الشياطين وأعوذ بك ربي أن يحضرون. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله الذي أنزل القرآن الكريم والفرقان الحكيم على النبي الحليم الذي هو على خلق عظيم وجعله الدليل على خير سبيل وكتابا فيه تفصيل وبيان وتحصيل ظاهره أنيق وباطنه عميق لا تحصى عجائبه ولا تبلى غرائبه والصلاة والسلام والتحية والإكرام على من أرسل حجة للعالمين وكان نبيا وآدم بين الماء والطين سيدنا ونبينا وشفيعنا وحبيب قلوبنا وطبيب نفوسنا المصطفى الأمجد والرسول المسدد أبي القاسم محمد اللهم صل على محمد وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين المنتجبين الذين أذهب الله عنهم الرجس وطهرهم تطهيرا اللهم صل على محمد واللعنة الدائمة على أعدائهم أجمعين من يوم عداوتهم إلى قيام يوم الدين أما بعد فقد قال الله سبحانه وتعالى في محكم كتابه المبين بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم ربنا إننا سمعنا مناديا ينادي للإيمان أن آمنوا بربكم فآمنا ربنا فاغفر لنا ذنوبنا وكفر عنا سيئاتنا وتوفنا مع الأبرار آمنا بالله صدق الله العلي العظيم اللهم صل على محمد وعلى محمد. So I want to first of all thank all of you for having me. It is an honor and a privilege to be here with all of you. Um, Brother Amin and I have tried to schedule this for some time and it just never worked out. But we picked the coldest weekend, I think, of the year. And in all honesty, I told Brother Amin that I'm going to put a clause in my contract that below a certain temperature, the contract's void. Okay? In Deen, that's called khiyar. We'll do khiyar, and that's it. Below, for me, I'm from North Carolina, but I grew up in the deserts of the Middle East. So anything below, I don't know, 70 degrees is cold. My blood is really thick. It's not thin at all. So this is torture for me. And see, Amin wasn't here for this announcement that I just made. He's walking in, so he can plead ignorant, and he wouldn't know what happened. Yeah, but it is again my distinct pleasure and my privilege and my honor to be here with all of you, and to speak on the legacy of Fatima al-Zahra alayha salatu wassalam is by no means easy. So let's reflect on the Quran a little bit. Yes, the Quran, this miracle of God, this immutable light in our lives, is so eloquent in its exposition that it points to you your own nature and indicates to you the reflection that you can see of yourself if you choose to see it. And that is the key for us, is when we examine the Quran and the examples that it presents to us, sometimes we read it in a cursory manner and we don't see what it's pointing to. Or maybe that it actually applies to us more significantly than we actually thought. And I think that that's probably the case for most of us. In the case of the verse that I recited for you from Surah Al Imran, you know the very well-known verses that Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wasallam used to recite, in which the verse it talks about, and you know the ayah, inna fi khalqi samawati wal ardi wa ikhtilafi al-layli wan nahari la ayatin li ulil albab. It talks about the signs in the earth and in the skies and everything that God has created, and that there is a message in it, there is a indication in it for those people who have deep insight. And Allah points to the people who are ulul albab or ulil albab, people who have lub, insight inside of them. But then the verse also continues, the verses continue in this series, in the surah, coming down to the point where we speak to Allah. And we say, رَبَّنَا إِنَّنَا سَمِعْنَا إننا سمعنا مناديا ينادي للإيمان أن آمنوا بربكم فآمنا. We say that, Ya Rab, we heard someone calling us to the path of belief and we answered. We've believed, Ya Allah. ربنا فاغفر لنا ذنوبنا وكفر عنا سيئاتنا وتوفنا مع الأبرار. O God, expiate our sins for us, forgive us, and ensure, and I am paraphrasing quickly, ensure that when we die, that you will raise us and bring us with those people who are abrar. Now let me stop here. This word abrar, and I know it is a Friday night. You've all worked. I actually worked the morning as well, so I know you're tired. Plus, it's cold and it's warm. You know what that means, right? Cold outside, warm inside. Means you fall asleep very quickly. So I'll keep it as simple and as light as possible tonight. This word abrar, it means those people who do good. But the depth of the Quranic Arabic is what? Is that it points to people who not only do good, but do good in such a way that it spreads immensely. Yes? You and I may do good, but what's the outer limit of that goodness? It reaches one person, one degree of separation from me to one person, maybe two degrees of separation beyond that first initial person to a second person, and then how far does it go? Yes? But if you come to Sunday school, and this is my plug for the Sunday school, and you teach somebody, and that child, you teach them and say, hey, look, you learned this new thing, go teach somebody else. And tell them when you teach them to go teach one other person, and go teach another person, and you understand. Yes? This is the act of perpetual goodness. And when you say someone is of the abrar, the people who do bir, goodness, these are the people whose goodness spreads in such a manner that it is limitless. And not only is it limitless, but its potentiality, meaning its potential to continue moving, is exponential, meaning it grows, it keeps growing, gets bigger and bigger and bigger. So I say this, and I ask myself the question that really in my life, how many things have I done that could be categorized, one, as good, but certainly as good that falls into this category of limitless goodness, spreading goodness, goodness that goes everywhere, everywhere, that reaches to the nth degree, anyone and everyone who it touches. And not only that, it fulfills what is needed to be fulfilled. That's even more difficult, yes? It's okay to do good, but have you fulfilled the requirement of doing good? Meaning, if someone comes and asks me for help, I'm ready to help, but I don't help them in the manner that they need or that is beneficial to them. How effective is that goodness? Yes? That's a question. We just think, well, give, do. Yes, indeed, give and do. But the principle of being good is not just to do good and to spread that goodness, but to do it in a manner that is effective and that it is useful to those who need the benefit or they need the goodness inside of them. That is the definition of abrar. People who fulfill what has been asked of them, the promise that they made, they fulfill it. And they do it in such a way that it spreads, it spreads, it spreads. And you all know the ayah. We are here celebrating and remembering and commemorating the ayah of the Holy Quran. Inna labara yashrabuna min ka'sin kana mizajuha kafura. Right? عيني يشرب بها عباد الله يفجرونها تفجيرا. The abrar are the ones who are going to be in bliss in the next world. Why? Because when the ayah describes them, it says يوفون بالنذر وَيَخَافُونَ يَوْمًا كَانَ شَرُّهُ مُسْتَطِيرًا. These people are the ones who fulfill the obligation on their shoulders. They fulfill the vow that they made, the vow to Allah. And what does the ayah say? وَيُطْعِمُونَ الطَّعَامَ عَلَى حُبِّهِ مِسْكِينًا وَيَتِيمًا وَأَسِيرًا. They feed the poor. They do good. Yes? They fulfill this vow. So when you think about doing goodness, about the term al-abrar, and wanting to be of those people that, Ya Allah, raise us with these people so that we are categorized with them, it is not merely about just doing good. It's about doing good, one, so that it spreads in a limitless manner, so that it fulfills the requirements of doing that good deed, and that you fulfill the vow that you had made that, Ya Allah, I indeed am going to be of those people who do goodness. That is the reflection it shows. And I ask this question, that are we all equal in the ability to do this? Is each human being got the same potential internally, intrinsically, to be able to do something like this? And that's something that we have to consider. So you all know, Brother Amin already mentioned, I am a scientist by profession, so I think of everything from a scientific perspective. And because tonight we are here to talk about the greatest of all ladies, the greatest of Allah's creations, Fatema al-Zahra alayhi salatu wassalam, let's consider sort of the difference between men and women in this aspect. In answering this question I just posed to you, that are we the same to be able to do so? And why do I mention this? Because Muslims, us particularly, when we read the Quran, it is filled with examples of male role models, is it not? Our prophets, our messengers, their presence in front of the eyes of people was very overt. What they did and didn't do, how they acted, how they behaved with their companions versus those who were against them. It was overt. It was easy to see what the example is. Now the question is it the same for those female role models? Those women who Allah has chosen? And is the potential for them to be able to do good, again, recognizing the position, the unique position of Nubuwa, of Risala, of Imama, that is a different matter. But as a human being an example for another human being, that is the question. That a woman as a human being, can she be an example for all of humanity such that her goodness spreads everywhere? Yes? And I remember as a graduate student, many years ago, you can all see my beard has gotten quite white and gray now. I remember I had a professor. I was teaching a course. I was a TA, and he was one of the instructors of the course. And he was a nice fellow, real southern gentleman. I think he was from Alabama. He was sitting with us once in like a break between classes, and he was telling us that, oh, I spent some time in India. He asked, where are you from? I said, well, originally from India. He said, well, oh, I was actually there. And I was surprised. Southern gentleman like this, scientist, oncology researcher, cancer researcher. I said, what were you doing there? He says, oh, I had gone on a mission, and I was working with Mother Teresa over there. And he says, oh, I remember her so fondly. And he says, I only had a very limited amount of time with her, but I could feel the blessing coming out of her. I could feel the goodness that was inside of this human being. Human being. That's all I'm saying at this point. And I remembered that. And I thought to myself that this is a scientist of a critical mind, someone who thinks reasonably, who felt something intangible from another simple human being who had nothing but goodness inside of her to share with other people. Yes? And that is the thing that we have to ask ourselves. That when we seek our role models, have we already defined for ourselves what that role model should be, such that if someone else comes in front of us who is showing us the right way, we say, no, this doesn't fit into the mold that we had already decided for ourselves. And I guarantee you that if you look in life today, there may be those people who you have considered to be role models for yourself who really should not be, and those who you have excused from your mind and taken away from your attention are actually people who you should be actually emulating and following in their footsteps, if not just for the sake of doing goodness in the way of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So let's ask this question. You all know men and women have been created equally. There's no question of the equality between man and woman. But are we really equal? Are men and women really equal? Let's take it from a personality perspective. Physically, we know. We don't need to discuss the physical differences or not differences, the strengths or not strengths. But let's talk about men and women from the perspective of personality, let's say, personality traits. And usually when you talk about psychology or the mind of a human being, you talk about maybe 4 or 5 different major traits that human beings have, yes? One is an eagerness to be open, an openness to learn and to experience things and being eager for those things. That's one trait, all right? Second trait, conscientiousness, to have a conscience inside of you. That is a certain trait that human beings manifest. The third thing, extroversion, meaning how open are you to dealing with others? How much do you have this ability to go out and interact with other human beings in society and talk to them? The fourth thing, agreeableness, where you find you have ability to deal with people in such a manner that you don't create conflict. How agreeable are you? And then the last thing is neuroticism. All right, these five things basically are what we describe as the five big major personality traits that human beings have. Now, science has shown, the data demonstrates, and I'm a data person, obviously, as a scientist, it shows very clearly that on these five traits, men and women are not different. On the general possession of these traits, eagerness to learn, conscientiousness, extroversion, agreeableness, neuroticism not in a negative manner, but in a manner of being conscious, men and women are the same in general. It's on the extremes of these behaviors that men and women differ. So let's take extroversion, dealing with other people. Men are generally considered to be more assertive than women when it comes to extroversion or dealing with others. Men are more assertive. This is what the data shows. The science shows that. Whereas women are considered to be more sociable. They have a greater sociability inside of them, right? They're come and they, with more emotion, will deal with others. Emotion in a positive sense. I don't mean that in a negative sense. So it's on the extremes of these personality traits that men and women differ. But in all honesty, the science shows what? That men and women are the same. In their personality traits, their characteristics, they're basically the same. The science is showing it. Physiologically, mentally, the brains, maybe the patterns are different due to the effects of hormones and male testosterone, female estrogen. Yes, there are some differences there. But in general, men and women are the same. The science shows it very clearly. So why is it that when you ask any human being to look at a man and look at a woman and say, are they the same? Most human beings will say, no, they're not the same. And it has been shown globally this is the case, that people will go and look at a man and look at a woman and say, they are not the same. But the science is showing that for all intents and purposes, their personality traits are the same, their brains are the same, their physiology is the same, they are basically the same. So they gave sort of an exercise. If I were to show you a picture of just two eyes, a pair of eyes, okay, looking at you, just a picture of the eyes, nothing else, would you be able to tell if it is a man or a woman? Probably not, right? It's just a set of eyes. There's nothing else you see. If I just showed you the nose, would you be able to tell this is a man or a woman? You would not. But if I expanded outward and showed you the face, then would you be able to tell? Yeah, probably you would be able to tell now that this is a man or that this is a woman. Why? Because the eyes by themselves don't tell you anything about the personality. But when all the parts are put together, then you can see that this is a man, this is a woman. The same goes for our personality. Any human being, irrespective of whether they are male or female, we are a composition of not only our genetics, our biology, but certainly our society, our culture, and our upbringing. That's what makes us who we are. And that's what determines what we are and how we behave. Now, let me tell you two more things before I move forward. And these things may surprise you, actually. So you guys know that women are bad at math, yes? Does anyone believe me? It's a good thing the sisters aren't sitting here. I'll get like tomatoes or something thrown at me. Me, in my own personal life, I can tell you that that's not true. I was terrible at math. I still am terrible at math. I can barely work a calculator, all right? Don't even give me like straight up addition. I can't do it. It's not possible, all right? In fact, I still remember back, it was such a traumatic experience to me when I was young that anytime math class came up, I'd start sweating and oh my God, it was like the worst thing. It was so traumatic for me. But my son is a whiz at math. He's really good at math. Man, is he ever good at math. And I know where he gets it from. He gets it from his mother. For sure, he gets it from his mother because it's not coming from me. Not to mention, my sister is a math whiz. She has a degree in mathematics, in fact. She could do it in her sleep. So why is it that people believe women can't do math? Why is it? Well, the science shows that it's because we've almost programmed them to be that way. By telling them from a young age that you're a little girl, math is going to be difficult for you. So the minute she goes, little girl sits in front of the teacher, the math exam is there, she starts to become anxious. Why? Because she's been told from the beginning, you can't do math. Whereas there is nothing in the biology, in the physiology, in the mind, in the brain that makes her predisposed to being weaker at math. There's nothing there. It is we have programmed them to be that way, saying, no, no, no. The hard physical sciences, like mathematics, like engineering, like physics, like chemistry, that's not for you. You go do English. No, no. Allah didn't create her that way. Allah did not make her mind in that manner. It is us who are programming the society that is programming, the culture that is programming. This can go for anything, my dear brothers and sisters. That's not to say human beings don't have strengths and weaknesses. No. Understand my point. My point is that the society determines it. And human beings are so strange that we would think that being egalitarian will improve the situation, right? What do people say? That we want it to be equal between men and women so there's no differentiation. And we'll talk about this tomorrow to some degree. So, do you know that the data shows, the studies show, and I bet you didn't think that on a Friday night you'd be hearing about data and stuff, but that's just how my mind works. That the countries that are more egalitarian, when I say egalitarian, meaning they don't differentiate between men and women, the society itself, they don't differentiate between men and women in terms of their treatment. The men and women are treated the same. They are more egalitarian. They treat them more equally. They point to Scandinavian countries, Norway, Netherlands, etc. These countries, they point to them. Do you know that in these societies, the personality traits of men and women actually differentiate them more? So that when you look at them, you can tell even more clearly what is a man and what is a woman? It's just the study. It's the data that's pointing to it. Whereas in countries that are underdeveloped, that you cannot actually tell as much between the men and the women. Understand my point in the sense of their personality traits or identifying them. Moreover, in many of those underdeveloped countries, the studies are showing that the women are the ones who are going after STEM positions, science, technology, engineering positions. Whereas in the Scandinavian countries that are supposed to be more egalitarian, it's not actually happening as much. Yes? Strange circumstance, no? And so why am I telling you all of this? Because when we read the Quran and we hear about the stories of the women of the Quran, the ladies of heaven, we should understand their potential impact upon us. And particularly when we talk about Fatema al-Zahra, alayha salatu wassalam, who we'll discuss in more detail tomorrow. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad. So you know that the reported hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wasallam, it states that there are 4 ladies of heaven. Yes? There's Khadijat al-Kubra, Fatima al-Zahra, there is Maryam bint Imran, and there is Asiya bint Muzahim. Yes? These 4 are mentioned. Let's talk about Sayyida Maryam alayha salam and Sayyida Asiya alayha salam tonight. And we will cover the mother and the daughter tomorrow, inshallah. And look at them from one perspective. And again, I ask you that focus on the humanity of these women. Yes, they are chosen of Allah. Indeed, they are the highest of the high. They are unreachable by us. They are beyond our reach. But they are indeed human, like us. And so to see them in that humanity is a great lesson for us. So we take the example of, let's say, Maryam alayhi salam. When her mother became pregnant, yeah, the ayah of the Holy Quran, what does it say? قالت امرأة عمران, right? The wife of Imran, what did she say? ربي إني نذرت ما في بطني محررا لك محررا. I have vowed to you what is in my womb, this child. I'm giving فتقبل مني, accept her from me. Now look, she says, Ya Allah, I am vowing this child that is in my womb to you, accept her from me. Now she didn't know at that point. She just said it's a child, expecting that from the family of prophethood that she will give birth to a boy. She says, I'll give it in the service of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But then when she gave birth, what happened? We know that she gave birth to a girl. What did she say? She said, oh, that's it. It's a girl. No good. That's not what we wanted. No. Well, look at the example of the Quran. Yes, maybe she is not prophet, she is not messenger, etc. That's fine. We are not talking in that realm right now. But the service of religion, the service of God, that is still Maryam. Yes? That is still Maryam alayhi salatu wassalam. That إني نذرت لك ما في بطني محررا فتقبل مني. I have devoted this child to you. وإني سميتها مريم. I name her Maryam. And أعيذها بك وذريتها من الشيطان الرجيم. I am seeking your refuge to protect her and her children and her offspring from the shaitan. Now I ask you that in a world where the men had dominated, and we're talking hundreds of thousands of years ago, no? When males, patriarchal systems dominated the world. Here is a woman like Hannah who devotes her child to religion and does so in a manner in which she says, Allah accept it from me. Yes? Now, not only is the acceptance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala an important thing, but it is to recognize that if Allah has accepted it, there must be a purpose behind it. Is it not? And not only is there a purpose behind it, but that there should be an example that's learned from her. And so what do we learn from the example of Maryam alayha salatu wassalam? Yes? That not only did she go into the mihrab, the food will come down, yes? Prophet Zakaria alayhi salam will come in and he'll say, Maryam, how do you have food? She says, Allah gives rizq to whoever He chooses. And then in there, immediately, what did he do? He's prophet of God. He saw her example and he says, what? Rabbi habli min ladunka dhurriyatan tayyiba. He had not had a child at this point. He sees Maryam's example. He says, let me ask, Ya Allah. But what was the premise in which Maryam was receiving all of this? It was because her mother had already devoted her to Allah's sake. She had already devoted her. Look at the potential that is inside of Maryam alayhi salam. That looking at her Zakaria is going to say, Allah, give me a child. Give me a dhurriya. Someone who is going to come from my nasal. Yes? Not only that, but you all know this. That when Imam al-Kadhim alayhi salatu was salam was, Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. When he was on Hajj, or they say he was in Medina, the report says that the Abbasi Khalifi comes. And he says, Harun al-Rashid, he comes and he says, look, you guys claim that you are the sons of Prophet Muhammad. But Rasul didn't have any sons. So Al-Imam al-Kadhim, he says, have you read the Quran? Harun al-Rashid was well read. He says, yes, of course I've read the Quran. So Al-Imam al-Kadhim, he says, the verse of the Quran that describes all of the prophets, yes? Dawood, Yaqub, Ishaq, Yaqub, Yusuf, all of these. Father, son, father, son, father, son. And in the middle of them, Isa alayhi salam. How did each of them get it? He says, oh, they got it from their father. Imam al-Kadhim, he says, well, what about Isa alayhi salam? Who did he get it from? He didn't have a father. How did he become prophet? How did he become messenger if indeed this is going father to son, father to son, father to son? You answered, the answer is there. Huh? His mother. Maryam alayhi salatu wassalam. And you see this example in her. But not only this example of devotedness and fulfilling the vow. That, my dear brothers and sisters, the fulfillment of that vow is extremely important. That promise to God. And that promise to do good in every moment. You know the ayah of the Holy Quran, وَأَوْفُوا بِعَهْدِ اللَّهِ إِذَا عَاهَدْتُمْ. Fulfill the vow or the covenant that you have made with God. Yes? And indeed, you know, Fatema al-Zahra, when she had gone out and she spoke about Fadak, when she approaches, yes, what does she say to them? To the men who are all there. بؤسا لقوم نكثوا إيمانهم من بعد عهدهم وهموا بإخراج رسول الله. What does she say to them? She says, go. Go to these men who made a vow, made a covenant, and broke it after they made it. And what did they do? Their intention was to throw out Rasulullah. Meaning, whatever he had given to them and directed them to do, they ignored it immediately. That vow is so important. Why? Um, because you don't want to be like the one Quran is saying, وَلَا تَكُونُوا كَالَّتِي نَقَطَتْ غَسْلَهَا مِنْ بَعْدِ قُوَّةٍ أَنْكَاثًا. Don't be like the one who undoes the yarn after sewing it all up. Don't be like the one who has made the yarn and then now is unraveling it themselves. That is something to consider very deeply. Yes? And not only the fact that Maryam alayhi salam was devoted to the way of God, the fulfillment of her mother's vow, but see that when she has her son, Isa alayhi salam, and she comes, and you know the story, he's there, she's not speaking. They come and they say, Maryam, how is it that you've had a child? You don't have a husband, you come from a good chaste family, but yet you have a child, again, casting aspersions upon a person. She doesn't answer. She indeed points to the infant, Isa alayhi salatu wassalam. What is his answer? قال أني عبد الله أتاني الكتاب وجعلني نبيا وجعلني مباركا أينما كنت. He says, I am the servant of God. He starts by saying, I'm the servant of God. He doesn't say, I'm the prophet of God. He says, I'm the servant of God. He gave me a book. He made me a Nabi. He made me a prophet. وَجَعَلَنِي مُبَارَكًا. He made me blessed. So one day, somebody asked Imam al-Baqir alayhi salatu wassalam that Yabna Rasulillah, Yabna Rasulillah, Isa alayhi salam proclaims, وَجَعَلَنِي مُبَارَكًا. He made me blessed. Isa alayhi salam as an infant is saying that he made me blessed. What does that mean? Imam al-Baqir, it is reported, he says, كَانَ نَفَّاعًا فِي كُلِّ حَالٍ. He would benefit people in every circumstance that he could find himself in. Spreading goodness, no? He would benefit people in every circumstance. Me, I will only benefit you when it's convenient to me, when it's not 5 degrees outside. Yeah? At least I'm here now, so I have to do that. So next time, it has to be minimum of 37 degrees at least. We're talking centigrade, okay? I'm from Canada. Centigrade. Benefiting people in every way, shape, and form. And realizing that who we are and how we are defined is an important thing. And why do we struggle with this, my dears? Because we are shaped by everything around us. I just said to you, right, that why are little girls afraid of mathematics or can't do mathematics? It's not because they're not smart enough or don't have capabilities. It's because culturally, societally, we've pushed them in that direction. This goes for everything of us. And that brings me to the second lady, holy lady. You all know Asiya bint Muzahim. Asiya imra'ati Fir'aun, the wife of Fir'aun, and what her state was. Now, let me go forward and I'll come back. The people of Bani Israel who surrounded Musa alayhi salam in that time, people who had been enslaved, persecuted, tyrannized by Fir'aun. What was their state? These were people, if you define them as people who've been oppressed, indeed they were physically oppressed. They had been beaten, they had been killed, they had been robbed, their property taken, indeed. But mentally also they had been broken by Fir'aun. Imagine someone who beating on your head telling you that I am your God and if you don't believe, I'll beat you even further. And not just one generation of this, generation after generation after generation of this happening. What happens to you? Your psyche is changed. It's shaped by the influences of the world around you. And I'm saying all of this to you to maybe consider ourselves even. That generation of influence, what does it do to us? How does it shape us in some way, shape, or form? So now look at the Bani Israel have been shaped. So much so that you all know that when they escaped Fir'aun, they got across the sea. The sea was split. They came across. Fir'aun goes. Water falls on him. He drowns. He perishes. Now they come on the other side. I ask you this question. If God has saved you from impending doom and manifested a miracle in which he splits the sea and saves you and makes your enemy or your persecutor perish, will you believe or will you not believe? You'll believe, right? I mean, the sea split right in front of you. What more does it take to believe? But these people, they come out on the other side. And as they're moving through the desert, they come upon a community, their tribe, and they see the tribe uh, worshipping idols. These people are so mentally oppressed. I say mentally oppressed because now they're free. Physically, they're free. They're so mentally oppressed. They see these people worshipping the idols in the desert. They come to Musa alayhi salam, and the surah, the verse of the Quran, it says, قالوا يا موسى اجعل لنا إلها كما لهم آلهة. Ya Allah. They say, "Oh Musa, make for us a god, just like these people are worshipping their gods, their idols." Ya Allah, Allah just saved you. Allah just saved you. So imagine the effect of that imprinting, that socialized pressure that they had dealt with. Not only that, but what happened to them when Musa alayhi salam went up to Tur Sayna? And I like to tell this story. I repeat this story a lot because I feel it applies to me a lot. That when they went up to Tur Sayna and when Musa comes back, he sees Samiri has made the golden calf. Yes? And they're all worshipping it. Where did that gold come from? Does anyone know? Gold wasn't just found in the desert. In fact, after Fir'aun had perished in the water, Musa alayhi salam had sent men back to Egypt and said, all the gold that Fir'aun has taken from us, stolen from us, that's our property, go bring it back. So men had gone, they brought that gold back. Meanwhile, Musa alayhi salam is on Tur Sayna. The gold comes back. What does Samiri do? Samiri takes the gold, he melts it down, makes a gold calf. Musa comes back from his meeting with Allah. He's very angry. You know the story. He sees all these people who have violated the trust and the vow that they had made that we will believe. Yes, even after repeated warning and the saving of Allah and the salvation that Allah has provided for them. They look at Musa alayhi salam and they say to Musa alayhi salam in the verse of the Quran, what does it say? قَالُوا مَا أَخْلَفْنَا مَوْعِدَكَ بِمَلْكِنَا. We did not break our promise to you. ولكن حملنا أوزارا من زينة القوم فقذفناها فكذلك ألقى السامري. Look what they say. They say, "Oh Musa, we didn't break our vow to you. We promised you we will be true. You went up. We promised. But you know what happened? All that zina, the gold came back. All the gold came back. We threw it in the fire to get rid of it. It melted. Somebody took it, made a gold calf, and then we were compelled to worship the calf." Quran is telling us. Quran is telling us, my dears. Now I ask again, look at the Quran as if it's a mirror showing you your face. Have we become susceptible to this very type of phenomenon? Maybe not to this extreme, but to some extreme, maybe where we are being shaped and we are acting in a way that is not our own will, but it is being directed by another force. Whether you call that culture, society, the world around you, the norms of society. Indeed, today, you see things, and Brother Amin and I were talking about this, that you become desensitized to the things that are haram to you, prohibited to you, but you see it so much that what happens? You ignore it because it's there, right? And slowly, slowly, what happens? It's normalized to you. It becomes normal. And that's what we cannot allow happening. You cannot control society. Society will be what it is, especially for us living here. But you can be conscious of what you believe in. And you can be very conscious of the fact that you will not allow that influence to change who you are. Allah is your Lord. He will direct you to be what you need to be. That is it. That is the goal, is to say, I will be directed by Allah. I will live by the way Allah wants me to live. I will have an identity, one that is decided by Allah. And you see this in the example of Asiya. Now, in all of this sort of pharaonic or pharaonic sort of manipulation, persecution, mind control, and indeed, he used mind control. If you look at his history, what was Pharaoh? Pharaoh threatened people, killed people, cut their legs, cut their arms, killed the babies, etc., took the women, everything he did. But mentally, he also tortured these people. He brainwashed them, did he not? If that was not the case, they wouldn't have asked Musa alayhi salam for idols or a god after being saved by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I ask you that in this moment, the one who said, Qurrata a'yunin li, lana, Asiya bint Muzahim, when she got that little baby who had come in the basket, she took him in. And yet when he escaped, when Musa alayhi salam and Bani Israel ran, Fir'aun, who did he come after? He came after Asiya. And he didn't just come after Asiya, he demanded information from her. He demanded her to fall in line with what he was telling her to do. He demanded that she conform to what he had designed to be normal. Yet what did she do? Did she conform? She didn't conform. Did she say, no, I'm going to become what you want me to become? No, she did not. She became an example for us that at the pain of death and being nailed to the stake, I'm going to declare the truth no matter what. That is the example. That is the example of Asiya. And not only that, what does the ayah say? وَضَرَبَ اللَّهُ مَثَلًا لِلَّذِينَ آمَنُوا إِمْرَأَةَ فِرْعَوْنَ إِذْ قَالَتْ رَبِّ ابْنِ لِي عِنْدَكَ بَيْتًا فِي الْجَنَّةِ. What does she say? Allah gives an example for who? Now let's stop here. Allah gives an example for only the female believers. Is that right? It's not right. He says, لِلَّذِينَ آمَنُوا, all believers, men and women, children, adults, elderly, everyone can take the example of who? The wife of Fir'aun. Now I wonder sometimes, and maybe somebody can tell me the answer to this. Why did Allah say the wife of Fir'aun? Why didn't he just say Asiya? Why the wife of Fir'aun? I think that to myself sometimes. And I've looked for an answer, suitable answer, and there are some speculations and some explanations. In my mind, and I'm telling you what I feel, that we live in a society where a woman is overshadowed by her husband. And the only worth of the woman is because she is the wife of such and such husband. She is the daughter of such and such father. Yes? And indeed, the love of Fatema az-Zahra alayha salatu wassalam, every Muslim in the world, not just the Shia, will say, we love Fatima. Why? Because she's the daughter of Muhammad. And indeed, that is true. That is true. But how about loving her not just because she's the daughter of Muhammad, but because of the words of truth that come out of her mouth? The power with which she lives. And yet, look at the example of Asiya, the wife of Fir'aun. What does she say? Oh Allah, make for me a house in Jannah. But not only a house in Jannah, عندك, with you, Ya Allah. With you. She doesn't just say, make for me a house in Jannah, some side plot in the corner. I would take that. I would take that. Give me even little, maybe 3 by 3. I'll take it. Ya Allah. I'll take it. She's saying, give it me right next to you, Ya Allah. وَنَجِّنِي مِنْ فِرْعَوْنَ وَعَمَلِهِ وَنَجِّنِي مِنَ الْقَوْمِ الظَّالِمِينَ. Save me from Fir'aun and his actions. What a message to us. Be aware of the world around you. And be aware, so aware, that nothing will change your character, nothing will change who you are. Now let me finish with this, yes? A man named Amr ibn Harith, he comes to Al-Imam Abi Abdullah Ja'far ibn Muhammad as-Sadiq alayhi as-salam. And he comes looking for Imam as-Sadiq. He doesn't find him. He hears that Imam as-Sadiq has gone into the house of his brother, is staying there. So this man, Amr, he comes, he finds Imam as-Sadiq in the house of his brother. He says, Ya ibn Rasulillah, how is it that I find you in the house of your brother here? Imam as-Sadiq, he says, because I was seeking some privacy, some quiet, so I came here. Tell me, what's your need? Amr, he says, Ya ibn Rasulillah, I want to tell you about my religion. I would like to tell you about my religion. What do I believe? Imam as-Sadiq, he says, tell me, go ahead. He says, my religion, and I'm paraphrasing, it is a long hadith. He says, my religion is that Allah is one, la sharika lah, and that my religion is to obey Him constantly and be in obedience of Him. My religion is that you are the prophet and the messenger and the seal of Allah's message. My religion is that I must pray. I do salat, iqam as-salat, wa ita zakat, giving zakat, performing the hajj, giving the khums, all of those. Amr bil ma'ruf, nahi anil munkar. He lists it all out. Then he comes, he says, after you, Ya Rasulullah, my religion is that I believe in your wasi Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salatu wassalam. I believe in his son Al-Hasan al-Mujtaba. I believe after him Al-Husayn al-Shaheed. After him, I believe in Ali Zain al-Abidin. After him, I believe in Muhammad al-Baqir alayhi salam. And then I believe in you, my master. All of these I believe, and I believe in them that you have been appointed by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as the guide. And Imam al-Sadiq alayhi salam, he says, indeed you are right, this is the religion. And this is the religion that came to my father and my forefathers and my grandfather Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wasallam. But let me add something for you. He says, O Amru, obey Allah whether in public or in private. Obey Allah whether in public or in private. Number two, Amru, always ensure that you are on the side of piety, taqwa. Choose piety over everything. He says, O Amru, control your tongue, silence your tongue, unless it is for the purpose of doing good. Ya Allah, we use and flap our tongue incessantly, and it is the source of so much problem. Silence your tongue unless it is for good. Imam says to him, thank Allah for all the favors that He has given to you. How do you thank? That if He has given you something, ask yourself, what do I have to pass it on? What do I have to do that if God gave me $1, my right on this dollar is only 50 cents. The right of somebody else is the other 50 cents. Think about the favor that God has done on you and thank Him. Imam says the next thing, don't ever say that you guided yourself. That anything you did it because you were able to do it yourself. Instead, say that it is Allah's grace that He guided me. Always say that. Make sure that you recognize God's guidance. Now, these last two things are the ones that I want you to pay attention to. He says, when you are walking forward, Imam says this, when you are walking forward, make sure your eyes are open so that nothing comes from in front and hits you in the face. That's how he says it. He says, when you're walking forward, make sure your eyes are open, paying attention so that nothing hits you in the face. And as you are walking forward, ensure that nothing can come from behind you and hit you from behind. Why is he telling you this? Awareness, no, of the world around you, everything that is around you. The last thing, he says, don't let anyone ride on your shoulders because it will hurt your shoulder. Does he actually mean you're giving piggyback rides to people? No, it's not about that. He's saying don't let anyone use you. Don't become the tool of anybody else. Don't become one who is used by other people. That's why, and we will talk about this tomorrow, inshallah, Fatema al-Zahra, her position is so high. Yes? That never did she cower in front of anybody. Yet you see the power with which when she speaks, she shakes the earth. And that's why I would be remiss if I did not mention the name of Sayyida Zainab alayha salam. That you want to talk about powerful women? Yes. And not underestimating the power that is inside of them? Look at Al-Hawra Al-Aqila Zainab. Ya Allah. That with what power she stood. And I say to you that today we live in a world, and tomorrow I will give you some statistics that I'm sure you probably know, but some may surprise you. In a world that is dominated by men, and by giving this speech, I'm hoping to sort of curry favor and get an extra big plate of biryani tonight, maybe. I think my wife always tells me that. She says, when you talk like this, what are you trying to get in return? I'm like, come on, a big plate of biryani, nehari, something, right? If I go to an Iranian audience, it's kubi day. If it's Iraqi, it's tumman and some khima or something like that. It doesn't matter. I'll take it. Yes. In any case, when you see the actions of these people who, for all intents and purposes, we have written them off as being feeble, insignificant, and weak, they shake the foundation on which we walk. Yes. They do what a man could not do. And they do it, why? Because it is already in there. It's that society, culture, family, etc. have told them you can't do it. You don't have the capability to do it. But our religion points to the opposite and does so in such a poignant and powerful way that all of us should open our eyes and see. أقول قولي هذا واستغفر الله لي ولكم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. اللهم إني أسألك وأتوجه إليك وأتوسل إليك بفاطمة الزهراء سيدة نساء العالمين. اللهم إنا نسألك وندعوك ونقسم عليك بحق الزهراء وأبيها وبعلها وبنيها والسر المستودع فيها لعن الله ظالميها. اللهم شافي كل مريض، اللهم رد كل غريب، اللهم فك كل أسير، اللهم غير سوء حالنا بحسن حالك يا كريم. اللهم وفقنا لمراضيك وجنبنا معاصيك وثبت أقدامنا على صراطك المستقيم وخذ بأيدينا إليك يا أرحم الراحمين وفرج عنا يا الله فرجا عاجلا قريبا كلمح البصر وهو أقرب من ذلك وافرغ علينا صبرا وتوفنا مسلمين. والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا محمد وآله الطيبين الطاهرين.
محمد وآل محمد صلوات صلی اللہ محمد افضل السلام محمد وآل محمد. رسالة الحق صلوات على محمد وآل محمد. رحمت نبی کی سایہ رحمت ہے فاطمہ رحمت نبی کی سایہ رحمت ہے فاطمہ یعنی شریک کار رسالت ہے فاطمہ رحمت نبی کی سایہ رحمت ہے فاطمہ مریم کا فاطمہ سے بھلا کیا مقابلہ مریم کا فاطمہ سے بھلا کیا مقابلہ مریم تو عابدہ ہے عبادت ہے فاطمہ رحمت نبی ہے سایہ رحمت ہے فاطمہ رحمت نبی ہے سایہ رحمت ہے فاطمہ ان کے ہی احترام میں اٹھتے تھے مصطفیٰ ان کے ہی احترام میں اٹھتے تھے مصطفیٰ کیوں نہ اٹھے کہ لائق عزت ہے فاطمہ کیوں نہ اٹھے کہ لائق عزت ہے فاطمہ رحمت نبی ہے سایہ
رحمت ہے فاطمہ میدان خم راز یہ کھولا رسول نے میدان خم راز یہ کھولا رسول نے مولا علی ہے مہر ولایت ہے فاطمہ رحمت نبی ہے سایہ رحمت ہے فاطمہ جو بانٹتا ہے سارے زمانے میں نعمتیں جو بانٹتا ہے سارے زمانے میں نعمتیں اس مصطفیٰ کے واسطے نعمت ہے فاطمہ رحمت نبی ہے سایہ رحمت ہے فاطمہ وہ روٹیاں جو ہاتھ سے تم نے بنائی ہے وہ روٹیاں جو ہاتھ سے تم نے بنائی ہے دست خدا کے ہاتھ کی قوت ہے فاطمہ رحمت نبی ہے سایہ رحمت ہے فاطمہ کوئی نہیں یہاں جو انہیں دے سکے شکست کوئی نہیں یہاں جو انہیں دے سکے شکست ازلان اور عاصم کی طاقت ہے فاطمہ رحمت نبی ہے سایہ رحمت ہے فاطمہ یعنی شریک کار رسالت ہے فاطمہ صلوات علی محمد وعلی محمد I'll recite a few more stanzas. If you're with me, please recite aloud. Salawat ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. آپ کی اے فاطمہ کیا شان ہے آپ کی اے فاطمہ کیا شان ہے کیا شان ہے مدح خود آپ کا قرآن ہے آپ کی اے فاطمہ کیا شان ہے The reason I'm reciting this is because of this stanza. It's one of my favorites. If you understand Urdu, stay with me. آپ کی تسبیح پڑھتے ہیں آپ کی تسبیح پڑھتے ہیں علی دیکھ کر ناد علی حیران ہے دیکھ کر ناد علی حیران ہے آپ کی تسبیح پڑھتے ہیں علی آپ کی تسبیح پڑھتے ہیں علی دیکھ کر ناد علی حیران ہے آپ کی اے فاطمہ کیا شان ہے آپ کے دامن میں گوہر حق کے ہیں آپ کے دامن میں گوہر حق کے ہیں ہے کوئی موتی کوئی مرجان ہے کوئی لولو اور کوئی مرجان ہے آپ کی اے فاطمہ کیا شان ہے آپ ہیں بی بی حجاب کبریا آپ ہیں بی بی حجاب کبریا اور شوہر مظہر یزدان ہے اور شوہر مظہر یزدان جو حیدر سب حیدری جو جو نمانے تیرے حق کو فاتحہ جو نمانے تیرے حق کو فاتحہ رب کی نظروں میں وہی شیطان ہے آپ کی اے فاطمہ کیا شان آپ کے بچوں کہوں میں نوحان آپ کے بچوں کہوں میں نوحان میری دنیا میں یہی پہچان ہے آپ کی اے فاطمہ کیا شان ہے وہ بشر جنت میں جا سکتا نہیں وہ بشر جنت میں جا سکتا نہیں حق سے جو بھی آپ کے انجان ہے آپ کی اے فاطمہ کیا شان ہے آپ کی ہے فاطمہ کیا شان ہے اس کو دیتا ہے رسالت کبریا اس کو دیتا ہے رسالت کبریا جس نبی کو آپ کا عرفان ہے آپ کی ہے فاطمہ کیا شان ہے صلوات علی محمد وآل محمد محمد وآل محمد الہی و بیمار داشتے جو بیمار ہو جلد برائے امام زمان قیامت. Recite all together. اٹھے قبر سے کہہ کے ہم یا علی. احمد والی شبیر شبیر صلوات میں زمان فرما
السلام علیکم یا رسول اللہ، السلام علیکم یا نبی اللہ، السلام علیکم یا حبیب اللہ، السلام علیکم یا امیر المؤمنین علی بن ابی طالب، السلام علیکم یا فاطمة الزہرا سیدۃ نساء العالمین، السلام علیکم یا حسن المجتبی، السلام علیکم یا ابا عبداللہ وعلی الارواح التي حلت بفنائک، علیک منی جمیعا سلام اللہ ابدا ما بقیت بقی اللیل والنہار ولا جعلہ اللہ آخر لحد منی لزیارتکم. السلام على الحسين وعلى علي بن الحسين وعلى أولاد الحسين وعلى أصحاب الحسين، خصوصا سيدي مولاي أبو الفضل العباس وأختك زينب وأم كلثوم وبنتك سكينة جميعا ورحمة الله وبركاته. السلام عليك تسعة المعصومين من ذرية الحسين عليه السلام، علي بن الحسين زين العابدين ومحمد بن علي الباقر وجعفر بن محمد الصادق وموسى بن جعفر الكاظم وعلي بن موسى الرضا ومحمد بن علي التقي الجواد وعلي بن محمد الهادي النقي والحسن بن علي العسكري. السلام عليك يا حجة الله يا ابن الحسن يا صاحب العصر والزمان، سيدي الأمان 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 من فتنة الزمان. السلام عليك يا خليفة الرحمن، السلام عليك يا شريك القرآن، السلام عليك يا كعبة الإيمان، السلام عليك يا إمامنا وإمام الإنس والجان. أجل الله تعالى فرجك وسهل الله تعالى مخرجك وظهورك وجعلنا من أعوانك والأنصارك والمستشهدين بين يديك. السلام عليك أهل بيت النبوة جميعا ورحمة الله وبركاته.
Brothers and sisters, we're going to be beginning with the panel discussion in about 5 minutes. So please reconvene here. Gents and ladies, we're going to meet right here in the main hall, men's main hall. So take 5 minutes, get your chai, and then please, again, let's reconvene quickly in the room. And then we do need some help, brothers. If we can, we need to put these tables and chairs away. So I can get a few volunteers to help me with that.